You're watching Let's Chat.
Right now, today, this book I am holding in my hand, which is called Mouse by Art Spiegelman, is #1 on the Amazon bookseller list. A few weeks ago, hardly anyone had ever heard of this book that is causing a lot, and I mean a lot of controversy, especially up in McMinn County. Joining us here to talk about this is Michael Dzik. Michael, good to see you, and thanks, as always, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This book, break this down into 30 seconds. What is Mouse by Art Spiegelman?
So it is a book that he wrote many, many years ago. He's telling the story of his father. His father and his mother were Holocaust survivors, and he's looking at it from a more modern perspective and then going back and forth in time. I see it as really just a book that teaches the Holocaust in such a way. Of course, it's telling one person's story, but it's easy to understand, and this is a challenging topic. And I think Mr. Spiegelman does a great job in explaining it.
And this is something that should be taught, right?
Of course. It is part of the curriculum for the state of Tennessee.
It is history, and officials with the McMinn County Board of Education have decided that it should not be available to students, right?
Right.
Now, and I quote on this because of obscenity and nudity. Is there anybody watching that doesn't think the Holocaust was one of the most obscene chapters in world history ever?
Of course. It is gruesome. It is horrific. It's the worst example of humanity, the Holocaust. And to be able to teach it, and not just teach what happened, but to teach how it happened and why it happened, and the steps that led up to truly the final solution, where Hitler wanted to kill all of the Jews of Europe and create a museum.
Yeah.
We need, as not just as Americans, but as a world, learn about what happened.
And this story comes on the heels, and no, the timing rather was coincidental. It was just last Thursday that we celebrated, it was Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
It's the day that Auschwitz was liberated, where over 1.3 million people died.
Exactly.
So why are they trying to not get this point, this very important point, in not just American history, but in world history, across to the younger kids?
You know, there is some irony. Like you said, International Holocaust Day was last Thursday, and this is the day it came out to say, we're not going to allow this book in our schools anymore. You know, I think this graphic novel, which has been really rated as one of the best graphic novels of all time, it does a amazing job of softly going through the Holocaust without going through all of the graphic pictures and graphic that we've all seen, thanks to, you know, President Eisenhower, you know, film this because one day somebody's not going to say that this happened. And again, Mr. Spiegelman goes through this. He uses cats and mice. You know, cats as Hitler and the Nazis, and mice as the Jews. So again, it softens it. And let's also remember, this is for 8th graders. It's not for 3rd graders or anything like that. This is for 8th grade minds who've already had Holocaust education beginning in 5th grade. Again, state of Tennessee, that's when we begin. And again, part of the irony here is the state of Tennessee has this book as part of the Tennessee Holocaust Commission's trove of resources for teachers.
And if you think your 8th graders have not been exposed to obscenities of a different sort, I got bad news for you. You're wrong. This is something that, if for no other reason, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, for no other reason, there should be a very instrumental tool in teaching young kids to avoid even the remotest possibility of this happening anywhere in the future.
I don't know how to say you're correct any more specifically, because these kids, you know, young adults, 8th graders, they're 14 years old, have had already so many experiences. Think what they're exposed to. And I don't want to say, well, you've been exposed to TikTok and the things that are out there, and so that makes this okay. The obscenities that they are talking about are the words, things like damn. They do use the SH word.
Sure.
Once or twice towards the end of the book. There is a scene in there where he talks about his mother who committed suicide. Again, very difficult topics to discuss, but these are things that happened in this person's family and how they got to where they are. It's just so important for people to understand that this is somebody's story. Yeah. This happened.
This is not just something that's made up. This
Correct.
is a living slice of what really happened.
Absolutely.
As a devoted, lifelong Jewish man, what went through your head? What went through your heart when you heard this news that they decided this was not fit for 8th graders in McMinn County?
Sometimes, I feel like, my stomach drops and like, okay, here we go again on something that seems like it's benign. But let's, take a step back from it because, I've done a lot of research and I've done a lot of reading on this. Did the school board come across this from an anti-Semitic perspective? Because anti-Semitism is growing all over North America, all over the world. And leaps and bounds. We know this. And really, this, I don't feel like, at least from what we know now, the school board did not take that approach, that this, from an anti-Semitic perspective. Did parents come to them? We don't know that yet. The information will come out.
To carry that question a little bit further, were you surprised when it came out to be a 10-0 unanimous vote? I was shocked at that.
Yeah, I guess these days, as a leader in the Jewish community, nothing shocks me anymore, I guess. I'm prepared. I think sometimes I'm over-prepared for things, when it comes to security or anti-Semitism, or for that matter, working with the interfaith and multi-faith community, which we are doing as well on this particular topic, because it doesn't just affect the Jewish community. This affects our kids and our society.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you're getting into taking out this book. What's to say we can't take out this book?
Right.
And the other one. And it goes further on down the line. Michael is going to stick around and spend a few more minutes here with us. We're talking about the book Mouse, which is creating, as I mentioned a moment ago, literally it's grabbing headlines from all over the world. We are honored to have Michael Vizick here, and we'll be right back.